Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be solving a lot of quadratic equations. Just kind of showing you the simplest way to approach this type of question. It's really helpful during an exam that you kind of hate with a time crunch. So to begin with, the quadratic equation formula looks like this: negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So let's say when you're given an example such as x squared plus 3x minus 10 equals 0, and you actually find the two values of x, you can use this equation right here to solve for this problem. So let's go ahead and do that, and after that I'm going to show you the simplest way to approach this type of questions that doesn't require this equation. So negative b, so the first value next to the x is going to be a. So for instance, this one is going to be a 1 in front of the x, but we typically don't write in math. And the second one is going to be a b, so 3x, b is going to be 3. And c value is going to be negative 10, which is the last value right here, this one. So c will be negative 10. So at this point, all we have to do is just plug in, basically get our answers. So negative b is going to be negative. B is going to be 3, so negative 3 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 3 squared, minus 4. A is going to be 1, so times 1 times c is negative 10, so times negative 10. All divided by 2a, so 2 times 1 being a. So now let's go ahead and break this down a little bit further. So it's going to be negative 3 plus or minus 3 squared is 9 minus 4 minus 10 will be the square root of 9 plus, because you have two negatives, so when you multiply that will give you a positive sign, so that'll be a plus 49. I'm sorry, no, plus 40. When you add them, you get 49. So divided by 2. So at this point, just go ahead and keep breaking it down. So negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 49 would be 7, because when you have 7 times 7, you get 49. So that'll be 40. Square root of 49 all divided by 2. Now let's break it into two individual values. So this is how it's going to look like. Negative 3 plus the square root of 49 is going to be 7. So it's going to be plus 7 divided by 2. And then you have negative 3 minus 7 divided by 2. So at this point, negative 3 plus positive 7 divided by 2. So the top value will give you 4 divided by 2, which is going to be a 2. X equals 2. That's going to be one of our values. And here you have negative 3 minus 7 divided by 2. That'll be negative 10 divided by 2, which is x equals negative 5. Alright, now I'm going to show you the simplest way to approach this type of questions. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this just to give us a little bit more room. So our answer that we got is x equals 2 and x equals negative 5. Let's keep that in mind. Alright, so now when you're given this type of problem right here, we're going to go ahead and use the same equation where you are actually find the two x the x values of this equation, which is x squared plus 3x minus 10. The first thing you want to do is basically draw an x that looks like this right here, and then your top number, which is c right here, that'll go on top right here, which is negative 10. And b, which is this value right here, This is B. That'll go in the bottom right here, which is 3. So at this point, what you're going to ask yourself is, what number would you multiply to get -3? But when you add, you get 3. This requires a little bit of you knowing your multiplication. So for this instance, we know like 2 times 5 will give us 10. So when you multiply 2 and 5, you get 10. But how are we going to make this become a -10? That's either by putting negative in front of the 2 or by the 5. But this instance, we also have to think about a number that we're going to add to get +3. So this means we're going to put the negative in front of the 2. Because when we multiply 5 times -2, we're going to get -10. And when we add, we're going to get a +3. So now you have your two values. At this point, all you have to do is do x plus 5 parentheses and x minus 2 equals 0. Now at this point, all we have to do is just solve for x's. So x plus 5 equals 0. That'll give us x equals -5. And then x minus 2 equals 0. That'll give us x equals +2. So as you can tell, we have x equals -5 right here. And in the previous formula, we did get the same answer, x equals -5. And then we also have x equals +2, and with the previous equation, we also got x equals 2. So as you can tell, the first formula kind of gives you a little bit more. It's a little bit more, tedious. Takes a little bit longer time, but the second one should, approximately take about half the time that you're gonna use the formula to work this out. So now I'm gonna go ahead and solve more problems using the simplest approach, which is this right here. So you kind of get a little bit more exposure in terms of how to approach this in different ways. So let's go ahead and erase this right here. And this is going to be example 2. So example 2, what we're going to do is let's choose x equals x squared plus 2x minus 15 equals 0. Now in the same approach, we're going to first, draw our big X right here. Our C value is going to go on top. This is the C. And our B value is going to go on the bottom. So C is going to be -15. And our B value is going to be 2. Now you're going to ask yourself again, what number are you going to multiply? What two numbers are you going to multiply to get -15? But when you add, you're going to get a +2. So this is going to be 5 and 3. Now, how are we going to, when we add these two values, how are we going to get +2? That's by making the 3 negative. Because when we add 3 plus -3, that'll give us a +2. But when we multiply 5 times -3, we get -15. So in this instance, we're going to do x plus 5 equals 0. And then we have x minus 3 equals 0. And by solving for x is going to be -5 on this side, and x is going to be +5. +3 on this side. So simplest way to solve this type of problem. Now let's do a little bit, one that is a little bit more kind of challenging. In the sense it has like a little bit more values. So let's do example 3. With a different kind of problem and see. So example 3 will be 2x squared minus x minus 15 equals 0. Now the first thing you want to do in this type of problem is try to, we have a little bit of a trick that we can approach, use this type to kind of solve. Whenever you have like a number that is bigger than 1 next to the x right here, So the number that is next to the a value, if it's bigger than 1, I'm going to show you a different way to approach this. So in this instance, we have this is a, this is b, and this is c. So a is going to be 2, b is going to be -1, and c is going to be -15. Whenever you have a value bigger than 1 next to the x squared, the first term, what you can do is just rewrite this equation, but in doing so, you're going to multiply 2 times 15. Alright, so in this instance, you're going to get x squared minus x minus 30. So we basically rewrite the equation into a simplest form so we can solve for our two x's. So at this point, we're going to use the same approach. We're going to draw our x right here. We're going to draw our x. And then our a value, our c value, which is going to be -30, will go on top, which is -30. And our b value, which is -1, is going to go on top. Now, again, you're going to ask yourself, what number am I going to multiply to get -30? But when I add, I get -1. That'll be 5 and 6. So in this instance, when you multiply, how are we going to make this so when we add, we get -1? That's by putting a negative in front of the 6. So when we multiply this, we can get -30. And when we add 5 and -6, we're going to get -1. So let's go ahead and set up our equation so we can solve for x's. So it's going to be x equals, it's going to be x plus 5 equals 0, and then we have x minus 6 equals 0. And then by solving for x's, we get x equals -5 and x equals +6 on this side. Alright, let's go ahead and do another one that is a little bit different from this one too, just to give you a little bit more ways of solving this problem.